Welcome back to the i24 news desk. Israel seems set for third elections in the space of just 1 year after Avigdor Lieberman ruled out joining a Netanyahu-led government. The Yisrael Beitenu party leader said it would take a Hanukkah miracle for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and blue and white leader Benny Gantz to form a unity government. There are only 5 days left for someone to get 61 signatures from lawmakers for a final chance to form a government before third elections are triggered automatically. They're penciled in already for March 2020. And joining us now, Tal Schneider, diplomatic and political correspondent at the Globe's Daily. Tal, I will start with the most difficult question. Is there any chance that Israel will avoid third elections in just 1 year?
Up until Wednesday at midnight, there is a chance under the Israeli law. But judging by political arena, by the politicians' behavior, it seems very unlikely. There is no, we can't see any way forward with them agreeing on what the government should be like. Netanyahu and Gantz have met on, I think, Tuesday, but weren't able to reach anything. No step forward, no compromise. So each side got out of that meeting and blamed the other one for the stalemate.
Now, Tal, as you reported in your weekend column today, just before Netanyahu arrived for that meeting with Benny Gantz, he had in fact been brainstorming a strategy for third elections. What happened there behind closed doors?
He invited to his offices of the Likud party in Tel Aviv about over 200 Likudnik members. Some of them are city officials and, people that are highly engaged in social media. And he was just, hearing them. He laid out a paper and a pen. He used his cigars to listen carefully. And he wrote everything that was said. And many things were said in those meetings. They weren't invited at once. He just divided them into little groups and conducted this unofficial brainstorming, as you called it. He wrote everything that was said to him, and when he arrived to meet Benny Gantz at 5:30 p.m. the same day, he was already carrying that weight of, consultation. Also, from what I've heard, and I've been talking to people participating in those meetings, he came up to them with a lot of polls showing that he can manage to bring maybe 60 or 61 for the bloc for the next election. So kind of confident. He is very confident that he can beat Gideon Sa'ar, his Likudnik top rival. He is confident that he can have the right-wing bloc enlarging from 55, as we speak right now, to 60 or 61. And I have to tell you, 61 is a very narrow government. Even if you have 61, it's really hard to conduct a government like that.
Very narrow, but what does it look like the strategy will be to reach that golden number of 61? He failed twice. How might things be different this time?
It's really hard for us to understand this logic, because he figures that if the right-wing extremists headed by Ben Gvir, which is Otzma Yehudit, the Jewish power, will be included in one of the right-wing parties, they will have an additional of 80,000 more votes. He thinks that Bennett, as a defense minister, a job that he just gave him, he thinks that Bennett, with that job, will be able to generate more votes. So the defense ministry will give Bennett his prominent situation in which he can have more votes. And with that, he thinks that the Likud can stay at 33, and which means that the next campaign, he will not hurt or try to get the votes of the religious Zionists, but will work his way to the center of Israel. For me, it's really hard to understand, where is this optimism is coming from. But, this is Netanyahu. He loves campaigns. He always loved them. He's campaign savvy. He is enjoying time during the campaign, and we have seen that through the years. So,
and Tal, of course, it's impossible to ignore the context that Netanyahu has now been indicted, or rather will formally be indicted after the question of immunity is put to one side. The Blue and White Party calling on the Attorney General to force Netanyahu to resign from his 4 other ministerial posts. When you speak to politicians, political activists behind the scenes. Are you hearing any pressure from within the Likud for Netanyahu to renounce those portfolios and hand over some ministries?
No, they're not asking for anything at the moment. The Likud top officials are kind of afraid of him. They shy away from any confrontation with Netanyahu, except for Gideon Sa'ar, as I said, who is calling for elections at the top of the party, election that might take place following the dissolvement of this Knesset. We do not hear any challenging for Netanyahu from his top officials. I may add also a very interesting point. The finance minister, Moshe Kahlon, who just came back into the Likud about 6 months ago, is expected to resign, to step down maybe on Sunday or on Monday. And this announcement is, to my opinion, a vote of no confidence for the prime minister, even though it will not hurt the Netanyahu stance within the Likud. But, his top minister, Moshe Kahlon, has no interest in this, elections after elections anymore. And we see that Netanyahu still is unchallenged within his own party. He's very strong politically, and all of his top ministers really support him. They do not request at the moment any of those ministerial positions.
But let's see how things might start to change if the Knesset is dissolved and we're on the road to elections. Tal Schneider from the Globe's Daily, thank you very much for joining us.
And the finance ministry may be on the table as of Sunday. So
very much maybe on the table very soon if all the cards have to be reshuffled in Israeli politics. Tal Schneider, thank you very much for joining us.